homeschooling and everything is getting to be a lot. I would have loved to see all of our great friends and peers and colleagues in Las Vegas when we all come together, but we're going to try to get through this, I guess, together.
Oh, I don't know. I'm enjoying this. It's different. It's different, and it's good to do something different. And I think that it is a time at which a lot of what you and I have talked about at NAB, what we have, we've been pushing, as what we thought would happen to the market is happening. And I think that, it is a time at which real, the kind of things that we've believed in as companies are really mattering to the world. And that is maybe fulfilling and exciting in a way. I think it shows that these kind of things actually really do matter to people and can change people's lives, and that that makes it all worthwhile, I guess.
It really does. And to echo that exact point, we just gave away a free live streaming camera. Turns out Dean, who won this, is actually using the cameras that he has to live stream rare disease conferences, which has touched his family, and he's helping to save lives. So it's
exactly
more
right.
and more becoming, it's really validating the hard work that I know you put in and many other people in the industry. We can all say that we really are helping to connect the world. So my first question for you, unless you want to respond to that quickly,
it's good.
Is tell us about NAB. So NewTek is a staple, a keystone of the South Hall, always with a large, you have lots and lots of people coming to your booth. Your staff is there. I'm sure you have some exciting new releases that people are interested to hear about.
We are always releasing new stuff and always will release new stuff. And I think that, so we're making multiple big announcements. And I should say, I hate to, I should defer to our marketing team, because I think that the whole schedule around the announcements is potentially different. And I'm not completely sure when they're going to be announced. It's a different show. I mean, we did just announce our UHD 4K camera and our new Spark converters, but there were more announcements coming, and I should leave it to our marketing team, because I'm not sure exactly what day those are going out on. I would say, and I think importantly, that this is a time for us as a company that we're focusing far more on what our customers need today, because I think that they're out there trying to solve real problems in the world today, and that they need us to do that as our primary mission, and we're going to do that. So strange time, strange show, definitely different. We just announced NDI 4.5, which was a big release. It comes with, we've made the iOS apps that go along with that free of charge as well, to help people do IP video at this time. That's seen massive interest. So certainly a lot going on from us.
Wow, that's amazing. I had no idea that the new iPhone apps were going to be released free of charge. That's an amazing new thing. We just had on our halftime show, the streamer Crash Coke was showing that off. And I would love to ask you about that streaming market. Now, I know that's not necessarily an essential market like the telemedicine scenario that we were just talking about. But I would like to kind of talk about esports, but I don't want to veer too far off topic. Let's start here. Hacking your product. I'd love to know, because you're an engineer. That's what you do. And so
yes.
You're an engineer. You're releasing SDKs, APIs, all of this stuff for NDI. Can we dig a little bit into what you've seen out there as far as people creatively hacking what you've developed into something new?
Oh my goodness, I would hardly even know where to start. I mean, there's some truly amazing things going on. I mean, I have seen, and I'm just thinking the last few days that I have seen, people using it for large signage displays that are interactive. I've seen it used for on stage, on stage, like amazing visuals where the whole back of the stage is all one big screen, and the performers are interacting with it, all done over NDI. I've seen it used for big signs and in big cities on the side of buildings. I've seen it used for oh my goodness, I mean, I just lose track of all the creative ways it's been used at this point. Um, I want to go back to something you said though about e-gaming and streaming, and um, I think that what is going on though right now is so much bigger than that. I mean, if we both work at companies, and no company had together we hadn't trained our managers. This is what you do when suddenly you can't meet your employees anymore. So every company of any size suddenly needs video in ways that they'd never thought about. I mean, they need to be doing virtual town halls, virtual shows like what you guys are doing. And we're in the video industry. It's relatively obvious for us that we can use technology like this. But when you think of the world at large, that's not true. And so, suddenly companies across the whole world are having to try to work out how to communicate with their employees, how to communicate with their customers, how to continue to train people, how to continue to sell things. And video is now the tool being used for that. And so these are huge areas. I mean, you mentioned telemedicine, that's another one. There's churches, that's another one. I mean, every one of those are trying to use video in a way that they did not before and had probably never thought about, didn't have a year to set in place a program to work out how to start doing this. Almost from one day to the next, they needed to go live with this because it is how they can continue to communicate with their audience or their people or their employees, how to continue to sell product, which is what helps them pay their employees, how to keep everybody attached and have a continued mission as a company. And all of those things just happened overnight with no notice. And a lot of, we're lucky. PTZOptics, NewTek, Vizrt, we know, these are the technologies we make. We know roughly how to do this, although it probably, even ourselves, it's been an interesting time. But the reality is that there's loads of companies out there who'd never even thought about this, and now they're needing to solve it almost overnight. And that is why when I say we need to be there for our customers, that's a huge part of this, is helping them understand how what their own needs are and what they need to be doing, and that's a challenge and a probably an incredibly important mission, and to me personally moving thing to help them work out how to continue with their whole business using video, which is what I've been coming to NAB and saying for years, look, this is the direction the market's headed. Everybody's going to need video. Everybody's going to need to become video producers. We've got to make this successful. We're going to make it easy to make great looking video. And it is really weird to be at a show where I'm not talking about the future anymore. I'm saying, guys, we need to help you do that today because you need it more today than you did it, and nobody saw this coming. So that is something that hits home to me.
Yeah, and to encapsulate that in a sentence which I've heard over and over is that necessity is the mother of invention. So what's going to come out of this is really going to be incredible when everyone has been forced to think this way, and out of sheer necessity, how do we communicate from our homes? How do we continue to market our products and sell our products? Thinking broadly like that is really important. Every single business has had to kind of come across that. It's not even just trying to look at just esports, telemedicine. They all have different needs, obviously. The house of worship space, which is trying to figure out how do we connect our communities and spread the message of God in a time when, there's really crisis and pandemic going on.
Yep.
What a time to be able to help with these tools. Is there a story that has come out of this? I mean, it hasn't been that long, but is there something that you could share with us?
Oh, I have so many stories. I honestly, I mean, I actually gave a 30-minute presentation to our company that I spent the whole time just telling people about the phone calls I'd received in the last month. I'll tell you one that jumps out at me though, because I'm just stunned at this. I've got a good friend, John Rydell, who works for NFL Networks, and what they had to do is he took his TriCaster system home, and it's sitting in his garage right now, and they're producing shows from his garage. But here's the thing that is unique on that really blew my mind, which is that he just posted a photo of it on LinkedIn, just a photo. And he has now had 133,000 people view that photo. that is more people than would normally show up at NAB. And this is one guy who posted a picture of how he's running the show out of his garage, and he said more viewers than the whole of NAB, the whole audience of NAB. That blows my mind. How is that possible? It puts these shows in a totally new light, and puts, the importance of video, just how much interest there is in that, in a totally new light, in a way that I mean, nothing goes further than actually, seeing how it's great for us to sit here and talk about directions, but see it actually happen out there is remarkable. I've had huge companies come to me saying things like, we had big product launches planned, which we had, $50 million budgets for. We need to take these all online. Help us do it. I've had politicians coming, that this is their business. How do we go out and talk to people? How do we do town halls that are virtual now, where we were unprepared for this, and we need to work out how to do this overnight? I've had churches coming to me asking how to get online, how to raise money online so that they continue to help people. I mean, and the list just goes on and on. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, even what the highest end broadcasters are doing now, they're looking to change the whole way they do their shows almost overnight. It's incredible. It's been incredible.
I think looking back at this, one of there are a few silver linings. Obviously, this is a very difficult time to be alive almost anywhere in the world. But there are a few silver linings. I mean, people are using their cars less, and the greenhouse gas emissions are temporarily, slowing down. And I do think that the human ingenuity and creativity is going to bring us forward. In the video industry specifically, I guess to say we're pushing forward the entire industry of video communications forward 2 to maybe 5 years.
Oh, absolutely.
And what does that
I mean,
look like in your mind?
well, that is a good question, and I totally agree with that. I mean, I think that we're all realizing that that video. I mean, if we were going through this and there wasn't broad video communication technology, it would all be just a totally different thing. So I think every company, is realizing just how important video is, and it's very interesting to kind of do a thought experiment and think, okay, so this is over. We all go back to work. We have a huge relief. We go and get our cup of coffee and we go back into our office. And what has changed? Um, I think one of the things that has changed is people know that they can connect and talk over video and bring in remote video in ways that nobody, really, I think they probably all knew it was possible, but probably didn't dare use it. Now they've been forced to use it. That will not go away. So even if we go back to more traditional video workflows, at least within the broadcast industry, I think the movability of content, is going to become a big thing. I think this has changed the entire concept of fault tolerance and the way people think about failure. In that, before there was always a big effort to build systems that were fault tolerant, where one of the systems could fail, and nobody had ever thought that when, I mean, that has all completely failed us here, literally. We've got TV stations that built all sorts of fail-safe built into their facility, and yet the moment people can't go into that facility, the whole idea of fault tolerance, in how it was seen traditionally, has just changed completely because it wasn't fault tolerant. And so far more important is people are going to see that the movability and the communication that is afforded by software, that you can move it to new locations, that you can do shows in different ways, that you can have people doing them remotely and call in, are going to be far more important than individual failure at a particular site. So I think the whole concept of fault tolerance will have changed as a result of this. And those are pretty big shifts that probably nobody thought would come. So I think that's interesting. I mean, who knows? I think that the longer this goes on, the bigger the impact will be. But I think that no matter what, we come out of this with video technology, IP, and software, which has been the things on which we as companies have built our whole business, but come out as clear things to that are important and focus on, and the need for those is going to grow.
Yeah, and the amount of people being exposed to live streaming video communications, the numbers are just absolutely astonishing. Nobody thought that 20 million people every day would be downloading Zoom. I mean, just insane numbers. The amount of people probably watching, YouTube, governments asking Netflix, asking YouTube, can you throttle the bandwidth, please? We can't handle the amount of people watching live video, watching video on demand. I think the familiarity that people are going to start to gain from watching live streams, seeing what other people are doing, will lead to many more people being more comfortable starting their own shows, thinking about using this technology when we do get back to work. How is that marketing person? I mean, if you're a marketing person, you've got to be thinking about the way that things have changed and what you wish you had at your at your office studio, the tools that they've got to be planning right now. How are we going to approach this new world differently?
Absolutely, and I think that that this has accelerated that trend where I think that so many companies could see that video was going to become important, but didn't go out and do it as a top priority. They're being forced to go out and do it as a top priority. And if you think about just being a company, for instance, that flies salespeople around, who wants to train people or who wants to go into a customer site to sell product, certainly NewTek have long believed that we needed to be able to do this by video over the internet. And I think but we're a video company. To us, that was relatively self-obvious. But there are going to be so many companies that now realize quickly that this is something they can do and that it's a powerful new way to to stay in touch with your customers that they probably thought was just something that would come over a period of a decade. And it's that has clearly been accelerated, and I really hope that they will see that this is better for everybody. It's a better experience for the customer, better experience for the company doing it. um, and that it all around, means that there's more people producing more video all the time, and that is I think a win for us as an industry, and in many ways for humanity as a whole. So that I think is a very good trend that's absolutely been accelerated by what is going on now.
One of the things I really look forward to, at least when all of this does come back, is the mobility that I think people are going to gain from video communications, being able to kind of break the chain and say, hey, look, if I was able to work from home for this long, let me go travel around the world as I do my job, and let me do things differently. I think everyone's going to start breaking the chain and thinking differently. And through that process, I think people, one of the things NewTek does, and I think a lot of streaming and video production companies help people tell their stories, and they help people monetize their content. And so I am kind of interested to see the entrepreneurs who are cooped up right now and are going to be unleashed into this world and say, we saw that it was possible. We did this. Let's go out and look at things completely differently and invent something new.
Yes, I mean, I think that is something I've always been very close to, because I think, that this is something that NDI has done a lot with, which is I do see, hundreds or thousands of downloads in a week of NDI, the SDK, where it is purely entrepreneurs who are looking to do unique things with it that I'd certainly never thought about. And I hope this accelerates that. I hope, I never thought that I would be able to work effectively from home, and I, now I've been forced into it, and it's actually been a very interesting and good experience. I think probably a lot of other people will see that. We have a relatively large organization around the world, and so we always used to think things like, well, you need to have a manager at this location or this location, or you want to hire people, at the location where the that team was. That has all been just completely that notion has been destroyed by this, because we've got teams all in one location and they're performing just fine now, but they can't even see each other. So they might as well be anywhere. And so it's broken a lot of boundaries in terms of where you hire, in terms of where you put things, how what level of flexibility you can have on teams. These are all good things, and obviously they apply to us as a company, but they're going to apply to all the other companies as well. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out over time. I truly don't know at the moment. I mean, I think that if we all go back to normal quickly, some of this will have sunk in, some of this will have been things we learned, some won't be. If it takes a relatively long time, I think then things change much more dramatically. So I think, the eye is very much on how quickly things go back to normal or not. And, but regardless, we will have learned that video communications connect the world, and that content, and storytelling, both whether they're for inside companies, outside companies, for individuals, those have grown dramatically. My kids are doing schooling by video, video link now. All of those were things that were never even contemplated before, and nobody prepared for, nobody trained overnight. Everybody thought, well, if you were in a school and you were saying, well, let's do this, they'd be, oh, that's great, that's 10 years in the future. And then they worked out how to do it in 1 week. So that's been incredible progress in a short time. So it's certainly interesting times.
Yeah, and I do agree. I think it's 2, 3, 4, 5 years worth of progress as far as helping a society understand how to use video communications. And I said this before, but I do hope that if we can reduce our travel, I mean, I think that's a huge one. We can reduce our carbon footprint. I
Yes.
think that people can be enabled to do things from anywhere, and people are going to look at all of this differently. So you have released NDI 4.5. You were going to send a big company to NAB. Lots of people, lots of customers. Everyone, I always love seeing your booth and what everyone's doing. You have a new camera. Let's dig into some of the new tech that you guys announced. I know there's new things being announced all the time, but what we can talk about, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've been working on?
Okay, so we have new Spark connectors. So we have NDI to SDI and NDI to HDMI, up to 4K, that do both in and out. That is new. We have 4K P60, in terms of a PTZ, which is new and pretty unique in the market today. So those are things that we just shipped. I believe that tomorrow we will launch some major new announcements on the TriCaster side. So watch this space. Um, you know, I those are the big things. Obviously, then there's NDI 4.5 that has the new iOS apps, that has lots of other new capabilities. So those are the things that we have focused on.
So Matt Davis, our lead engineer, keeps telling me he's always working with you, coming up with new ideas, asking you to build custom things. And one thing I know that you both have been working on for a long time is these new NDI webcams.
Yes.
It's an NDI camera that's only $499. I don't know if we can maybe show one. I have one here, Mike. I don't know if you want to show it, but this
I'm
is
going to do one better. It's what I'm using right now.
really.
I absolutely. So through this, my entire ability to continue work is powered by your technology. I can't show you it on the camera because it's actually the camera that's, but absolutely. I mean, these devices, I'm very excited by them. I'm using my entire job right now is powered by PTZOptics cameras. So take that as a compliment, and it works incredibly well. I'm blown away, and it's made a difference to my life, and probably my employees wish I wasn't as visible, but I am, thanks to PTZOptics.
Well, I'm so glad to
So
hear that, and I'd love to brainstorm a little bit about where you think NDI in the form factor of a webcam might end up, because that's been something, you and I haven't had a chance to chat about this, but there aren't any really NDI webcams. And so I'm thinking about esports, I'm thinking about the corporate space, education. I was wondering if you wanted to brainstorm a little bit about how this might change the ability to implement NDI on a more affordable, scalable level.
well, so that's a great question. I mean, I think the goal of NDI has always been to make video more accessible. I mean, look, the goal of NewTek, the goal of my personal goal has always been to make video more accessible to more people. And what you're doing with these webcams helps absolutely achieve that goal. We are seeing huge uptick in NDI at the in the consumer parts of the market, both with e-gamers, but also just general communication. And these cameras place just so perfectly into that market segment and those needs. And so I just, I'm very excited by them. I think that this is very much the direction that the video industry is headed, is making it more accessible. And the really cool thing, though, is that we talk about those things, happening for everybody, but we see them getting picked up in the higher end markets too, which is really interesting because they are learning by looking at what the world at large is doing with video. And so these things that are being seen by, being used by e-gamers today are being used by TV networks of tomorrow. And that makes this very exciting.
Well, I find that very interesting myself, how, there are, entrepreneurs, do-it-yourselfers who are building a television studio in their garage and getting hundreds of thousands of viewers on Twitch. And they're able to, those are the people, I think, that, like you said, are hundreds of thousands of downloads of NDI every day, because they're looking at ways, how can I make this more affordable, more flexible, easier for me to run? And now, we didn't talk about the fact that NDI runs on a gigabit network, which is a very off-the-shelf thing that you can get from Amazon and run reliably. So you're empowering these types, I think, that are becoming more and more popular and more and more commonplace for someone in their garage, someone in their home basement, to put in a studio. Now, obviously, you work with the top tier television studios, but I think it's really a noble thing to be able to, whether it's, there was a gentleman on this stream who literally takes his NDI cameras to live stream conferences of rare diseases to help families who may have that one around the other side of the globe need the advice of, life-saving cures. So it really goes, kind of spans the spectrum.
Absolutely, and by the way, telemedicine is obviously hugely important and has huge potential for humanity as a whole. And it is really good to see that. I think one of the big outcomes of this is going to be that telemedicine has taken 5 years worth of progress in 5 weeks. And so my hat is off, and I commend everybody who's looking at ways to do that. And if NDI helps even a small bit in that progress, that makes everything worthwhile. So you're right. I mean, it's just tremendous, the progress we've all made in just weeks of time.
And if you're watching this stream, the skills that you have, understanding NDI, understanding IP video and streaming, if you can help even just one other person or a group of people, or even a local hospital or a conference that is about science or healthcare, you can help in this process of delivering communications around the world. So thank you so much, Andrew, for coming on. If you have
My
a moment to
pleasure,
chat with
anytime.
our friends in the Zoom conference, I sent you the link. If you have any questions for Andrew, I'm hoping he might have a moment to chat with you guys there.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Stick around just 60 seconds until we're going to bring on our lead engineer, Matthew Davis. Stick around and we're going to learn a little more.